Okay, what is your name?
My name is Matthew Graves. I'm a producer-director at the Southern Documentary Project at the University of Mississippi.
Okay,
We just changed our name, so I had to think about it.
okay. Now, what is the hardest part about doing independent filmmaking?
I think that a lot of times some of the difficulties about independent filmmaking are the resources that you can have. Like you really have to a lot of times draw upon favors, from your friends and loved ones and coworkers, and really you get the opportunity to work with a lot of really talented people. But a lot of these really talented people have day jobs, so you're always sort of at the mercy of people's schedules. So it can be really difficult to sort of create a project where you can sort of block off a realistic amount of time to get it done. So what it ends up happening is that you have to work on weekends and nights and mornings, which is totally fine. But it means that a project that you could have potentially shot like in a week or 2 weeks, like you have to spend a whole year on, because you're literally just picking up like a shot here or a scene here. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge. And then along with that goes budgets. Being able to come up with a budget where you can actually compensate people for the work that they're doing. That's a real challenge. A lot of times, again, not only are you asking people like for favors and support, but you're also asking them to do things for nothing, for free, just out of the kindness of their heart, which can make things, again, challenging to be consistent and to be making projects consistently and doing things that are of high quality and telling stories that you want to tell.
Okay. Now, how hard is it to get funds for doing these movies?
I think it's gotten a little bit easier in some ways. In the past, sort of the low to no budget stuff was the way it worked is you just racked up your credit card, or you asked your parents or your friends to chip in, or you just did everything for nothing, for absolutely free. And that's still the case today. There are some other kind of new, exciting new fundraising sources that are available to independent filmmakers, like Kickstarter.com, like Indiegogo.com. These crowdsourcing fundraising sites that kind of allow you to sort of use social network sites to sort of build up excitement about what you're doing and allow people the chance to donate like $1 or $10 or $100, things like that to your project that sort of builds up, and you create a budget that you can actually create something with. So that's kind of a new, exciting way to do it. It's getting to the point now where it's getting a little oversaturated. You've got like some of these really kind of large independent projects, like multi-million-dollar independent films that are being produced, that are being funded through Kickstarter and stuff like that. So it's making it just a little bit, I think, a little bit more challenging for kind of the little guys to get in there and find a piece. But again, the opportunity is there, and it's really kind of a great thing, I think, to have something like Kickstarter or Indiegogo to help you finance something that you really have a passion about telling.
Okay. Now, what is the difference between independent filmmaking and Hollywood films? Is there a difference between those two?
I think ultimately the difference between an independent film and a film that's released in Hollywood is all about the level of control that you have over the story. Hollywood is it's show business. It's a business. I mean, they're trying they've got shareholders that they're trying to make as much money on a project as possible over the life of its run, from like going to the theatrical release to like video on demand to DVD sales to Netflix to merchandising. I mean, there's a lot of elements that are built in trying to make as much money as possible, and to that end, you see this desire to sort of reach as much of an audience as possible. So the story is kind of dictated by those parameters. That, like, we really need to have something in the story that is attractive to like kids and to like parents and to older people. All these different demographics. So sometimes the story can feel a little kind of muddled because they're just trying so hard to like reach as many people as possible. So the nice thing about independent films is that a lot of times it allows the filmmaker to have a little bit more creative control about the story. The budgets are usually a lot smaller, so the stories are usually a little more intimate, but sometimes that can really lead to some incredible movies that just, are all about the characters and the story, and and they just have so much heart. Now, that doesn't mean to say that like all independent films are wonderful because they're like they've got all the control. Because sometimes, it can be nice to have someone to come in on the outside and tell you, that probably isn't working. Maybe you should think about cutting that. And sometimes, as independent filmmakers, we have final cut, so we kind of take this, this air of like we're the auteur, and that has to be in there because that's how we envision it from the beginning. So there's kind of a trade-off there. But ultimately, with independent film, you have a real there's a real opportunity for you as a filmmaker, as a screenwriter, as a director, as a cinematographer, to sort of have the creative control in a project that you would want, and to kind of make the film in the way that you would love for it to be made, and for the way that you as an audience member would just love to see that movie. So that's kind of rewarding in and of itself.
Okay. Now, how does independent movies has any impact on businesses?
Businesses in like just in general, or in Oxford? What do you
like mean? In Oxford.
Yeah, well, I've always felt that Oxford has been really supportive of independent filmmaking. With technology, sort of expanding and sort of creating this environment where it's a lot more accessible for people to like make films that they want. They can go buy a camera at Walmart. They can shoot like beautiful HD video and put different lenses on it. But you can shoot amazing footage with your iPhone. But regardless, I've always felt that Oxford, the community and the business community, has been really supportive of independent filmmaking, and allowing people to use their stores or their restaurants for locations. Allowing us to shoot in the city and on the square and things like that. That their support for the Oxford Film Festival that happens every year. I just think there's a real there's definitely a palpable encouragement factor that's coming from the Oxford community and the Oxford business community to sort of support that and hopefully see the value in creating this environment where the arts are important and they're celebrated, and in long term, hopefully, like as these projects begin to improve and develop, like hopefully they can get bigger, they can be more viable for the local economy in terms of like bringing production to Oxford, like bigger crews, bigger projects, bigger budgets that can sort of prop up the town in that way as well. So I think it's definitely a possibility for independent filmmaking to be something that can help spur the economy in Oxford and in Mississippi.
Okay. Now, what can you do to make independent films like better?
I think it all comes down to story. I think that one of the most important things that filmmakers, that people that want to be filmmakers, that people that are trying to make movies, that they can do is just to try to tell better stories. Like focus on the writing. It's probably one of the most important aspects of the whole process, is to have a story that is worth telling and interesting and worth all the hours and days and weeks and months of your effort and your passion and your desire to get other people involved in it. I think it's really helpful to kind of see what other people are doing, to keep watching movies and to read about other things, read books, like take screenwriting classes, take English classes, just constantly be trying to learn, about, what is it about good stories that attract people to, what is it that you love about a good story, and what is it that makes, a story that you don't like, what is it about it that you don't like, what are some of those things that sort of pull you out of it that you can sort of use to your advantage when you're telling your story. So again, I think, like I said earlier, with the sort of the democratization of technology, of filmmaking, allowing so many people to kind of get their make their film and like shoot it on HD video and edit it on their laptop and put it out for the world to see on YouTube or Vimeo. Really the kind of cliche now is that the only thing that's going to really separate everybody is their story and their creativity and what they do with the tools that they have available to them. So I think more than anything, for for independent films to be better, like we really have to start focusing on the story and to make it as strong and as impactful as we can.
Okay, before we end this, I have one more question. Now the cameras, like, where do you get the cameras to film the independent films from, like the cameras?
Well, there's a couple. There's a lot of resources, and Oxford's very fortunate because there's several things. Like the university has a new minor. Well, it's not a new minor, but they have a minor in the theater department. It's a cinema. It's a production minor. It's this cinema studies or whatever. So they, with the program and their students, they offer a great collection of cameras and lenses and gear that the students have at their disposal. On the community level, there's a new program that was started last year, I believe, called Oxfilm, that is sort of created to encourage and spur independent filmmaking in Oxford. There's a small membership fee, I think, but it allows you, access to rent at very, very cheap prices. Really great cameras and lighting equipment and sound gear, really anything that you would need to sort of tell the story that you want, in the visual medium. There's also really great rental houses like in this region. For example, in Memphis, there's a great rental company called LensRentals.com that have any and every camera you can think of, any and every light, sound, grip gear, dollies, and whatever you can think of. You can rent it there, and they have great rates. You can rent them for like the weekend. You can get them for like basically you rent it for a day and you get it for the whole weekend. Like 3-day weeks where you pay for 3 days and you get it for 7 days. There's a lot of things that rental houses can do. If you have a project and you really want to tell it, you can get the gear that you need without having to like spend several $1,000s to buy something. You can just rent it for the weekend or the week or a couple weeks. You know what I mean? It's a great kind of resource for filmmakers to use if they don't have the budget to do it. But again, a lot of people have access to really great looking video on their phone. Or on their tablet. The new cameras on cell phones are shooting 1080p. They're gorgeous. Some of them can even shoot like 120 frames a second if you wanted to do like slow motion. So really, there's really no excuse now for people that want to tell stories visually to get access to some kind of camera and tell their story in the way that they want to do it.
Okay, now, let's say if you put your film in a film festival, and let's say if you win, do you gain the profits off of that, and the profits or recognition?
It's kind of a mixed bag. Film festivals. Obviously there are some festivals that have really established themselves as like a marketplace. Places like the Cannes Film Festival and Sundance. These are festivals that sort of serve two purposes. They obviously showcase and celebrate films, independent films, and are a great place to go and watch amazing stories and look at new talent and stuff like that. But also they have, they serve as sort of a marketplace where independent and major distributors can come in and see these films as a potential, vehicle for them to distribute and make money. I would say the majority of film festivals in this country are not that. They're more the first part. They're more a place where you can see, independent films and celebrate film and meet the filmmakers and watch stories that you're not going to see at your local cinema. And that's wonderful too. But really, I think in some ways the best parts about going to the film festival as a filmmaker is sort of just being exposed to other filmmakers, seeing other films, seeing what other people are doing with similar resources. And if you are fortunate enough to win these festivals, it's great for you. You get the recognition. In some cases you might get a prize. They may have like a first place prize or something, and that's really awesome. But at the end of the day, I think what's more helpful in terms of attending film festivals and submitting your film to festivals, because it can be kind of expensive. You got to pay like an entry fee for each one, so it can really put a drain on you, and then you got to pay to go there and stuff like that. So ultimately, I think the value in those is sort of the exposure that you have to other films and other filmmakers, and also it's really fun to see your project on the big screen. If you can get the opportunity to make something and then sit in a theater, with other people and watch it in a dark room on a big screen, there's something that's exciting. That's what kind of movies are all about. We're kind of getting away from that a little bit with watching movies on on our smartphone and TV. But at the end of the day, like I think the majority of independent filmmakers, like if they're being honest, would love to watch their movie play on a big screen with an audience responding to it, and hopefully reacting in a way that they wanted. So I think that's the value of film festivals. And obviously, if you're fortunate enough to get into a higher level film festival like Sundance or something, then the opportunity comes that perhaps I can get this picked up and get distributed. Now, having said that, in a lot of ways it's helpful, to sort of build up a repertoire of film festivals that you've entered and won, to sort of build up this idea that this might be a film that investors might be worth investing in and distributing. And it also creates something that you can say, like, look at what I did. We were really successful with this in terms of the film festival with this project. You can go to investors and say, hey, I'd love to do this project. Look what we did with this one. And so that might be a way for you as an independent filmmaker to sort of build on that. So you just never know. It's a gamble, but at the end of the day, I think it's all about like making something and then showing it to people and allowing people to see it and hopefully respond to it.
All right. Well, thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you for the interview. Thank you.
Absolutely.